doing?
Well, we're gonna do a pull, full pull, baby. Hello, and welcome back to Hunter Tuned. Today we are out at the shop with Michael, and you know, he is over there messing with his car. So Michael actually got his engine back into his Civic. He was messing with it and rebuilt it over the last few months, and now he actually got it back into the car. So Michael's little single cam should be making some jam pretty soon here. He's just got to do a few finishing touches on it and get the axles in and stuff like that. So this car should be running here within the next week or so, I would think. And, you know, at Michael's rate this winter, it might take another month or two, but we're thinking.
It'll be started tonight.
What?
It'll be started tonight.
Oh, okay. Why are you so confident in that?
I just gotta put an axle in to start it.
Oh. What's that RTV for?
Oil pressure fitting.
Oh. So anyways, I ended up coming out here yesterday to the shop and messing with the dyno some more. So I did get the dyno kind of off of the ground and off of the dollies. So these are the dollies that I had the dyno sitting on. These are just like Harbor Freight moving dollies. They're called Movers Dolly, 1,000-pound capacity, and I had 4 of them underneath the dyno. So I had one on each corner of the dyno in order to kind of maneuver the dyno around the shop, because I did not want it you know, on the concrete. I did not want it resting on the concrete when Josh dropped it off. Josh with Meisner Transport LLC. He is the one that actually picked up my dyno from Arizona and dropped it off here at the old Hunter Tune shop. So can't thank him enough again. He actually worked out a deal with me where getting him a set of injectors and pre-flashing his GM LS computer that he's doing a turbocharged build on. So he sent me his computer and some injectors to flow test as partial payment for the him hauling the dyno up here. So that was really cool that we got to work something like that out. But Josh actually sent me up a banner, and I wanted to kind of show you guys what the banner looks like. It looks pretty decent sitting up here in the shop. So if you guys do need anything from him, we were actually thinking about working out a discount code if you guys were interested. You know, possibly if you guys need anything hauled and you heard of Josh through my channel, you could possibly get a discount or whatever. So anyways, if you guys do have like stickers or banners or anything like that that you guys want to help and, you know, show off or advertise or whatever on any of my videos, we do have Josh's banner up now. And I mean, if you guys have stickers or anything like that, I mean, I'll gladly sticker up the dyno or anything around the shop. If you guys have, you know, anything you want to send in, let me know. The JB Tuned one is the only other banner we currently have. I would like to get some more banners up around the shop and you know, just kind of decorate a little bit. But anyways, enough with the boring chit chat shit. I got the dyno off the dollies and onto the concrete, and well, I pulled the CRX on this thing like immediately. I have a clip from yesterday of me messing with the dyno and getting it on and off the dollies that I may throw in, I may not. Alright guys, so as you can see, I have the CRX pulled out and the Mustang like I was saying. The hatch is still in the corner and Michael's car is still over here. I had to borrow the cherry picker from Michael's motor, so I just kind of rested Michael's motor laying down, you know, towards the ground here. and on a tire, so I can borrow the cherry picker because I needed to put the dyno on the ground. So the dyno was on these little wheel dollies that I bought from Harbor Freight, and these things did their job for sure to be able to wheel around the dyno, but I couldn't put a jack under it and then let the jack down to be able to set the dyno all the way onto the ground. So I had to use a cherry picker on these hooks, and I just hooked on it, lifted it up, pulled the dolly out, and then set it down. And I got the dyno onto the ground now, so we can actually put a car on it without it, you know, moving around or whatever. So, and now obviously you guys can see that the ramps butt right up to the, you know, it's level with the dyno now with the ramps, because before when the dollies were on here, the ramps were obviously lower than the rest of the dyno. So I also plumbed the water today. So I got this big, this is like a 50 gallon or 35 gallon drum, and I filled it full of water because I got the water working at the shop here. It actually works really good now. So when I turn this thing on, it just builds pressure and it sits there. So it's been sitting steady, and when I turned the water on, it was flowing really good and everything is working there. So thanks to the couple guys that left comments on the last video. They just said, you know, it's probably just aerated or whatever, you got to leave it run, and that's exactly what it was. So I just left it run, and then the pressure steadied out, and you know, got all the air bubbles out or whatever. And then we had good clean flowing water. Not clean, it fucking smells like poop, but it is you know, flowing now good. So anyways, I got the CRX pulled out here, and I pumped all the tires up because they got a little bit low. And I wanted to run through what I did on the dyno for the water. I got this Drummond water pump. It's a 1,525 gallon per hour flow pump, and you need about, I think it's like a gallon for every 20 horsepower, a gallon a second. So every second you need a gallon of water flow for every 20 horsepower. So it was, I don't know, I don't remember exactly. I think it's a gallon for every 20 horsepower or something like that. And that specific pump was at Harbor Freight, and it's an inline pump, so it's easy to, you know, plumb into this thing. And I think this pump will do like 500 horsepower, maybe 6, with the flow that it's rated for. If the pump will do more flow, it will do more, you know, whatever. But I don't know if the flow really matters. I think it just needs a capacity that's high. So we might suck through a bunch of water, obviously, but I have the return from the dyno actually running right back into the drum here, so we're just recycling the water. For now, it's cold enough where I don't think it's going to get too hot, and yeah, I just wanted to test this thing out and see if it's going to leak, if it's going to work, if it's going to do anything. I have no idea. I bought this dyno for $750, and I had it shipped up here from Arizona. So this is like a super budget dyno, but all mechanically it is all here, and it all works for what I can see. So I have to put the covers back on. So these covers right here are going to cover up the roller area, like right here, so it's not exposed. And then I'll put those plates on, put the ramps on, and then lift the center up. So this is just the lift here. I talked about this in the last video. This lift will lift up, lock the drums in, and then I can pull the car on and strap it down. I did turn on the water pump already and hook up the electronics. I hooked up the electronics in the last video, and I actually plumbed water this morning. So I got the water plumbed, and when I turn on the water pump, this thing doesn't even frickin' leak, guys. Like I can't even express how crazy this is, because this thing's from the 70s and it hasn't been used in a long time, and it doesn't even leak. It literally has a very small pinhole coming from, like, not a pinhole, it's just seeping very little out of this fitting right here. Out of the bottom, you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see, but it's dripped like 2 drips in the last hour. So that is awesome. This thing doesn't even leak. So I'm gonna throw the car on and see if the load if it'll actually load the car or not. And if it does load the car, I want to, you know, do some power runs with the CRX here, because it's the lowest horsepower car I have, just to kind of feel it out and see if everything is working and whatnot. So yeah, but anyways, all the solenoids and stuff are clicking and working. We have water flowing through all the lines. So this line right here is a water line that comes through and then feeds the brake, and we have water flowing through everything. So that is awesome. Like I said, nothing is leaking. This thing is fucking sweet. So I just got heater hose. This is 3/4 inch heater hose. This is the feed line So the feed comes into the dyno. We have the spigot right here that turns it on and then goes through all the dyno system and then comes out. This is the return line. So this is the water return. So this comes out and then I ran this right back into the drum. So this drum just feeds, you know, it feeds the water right back in. So we're just recycling the water. Technically, maybe in a perfect world, you would want to have 2 tanks, one for wastewater and one for clean water. But I don't know. I think this will be fine for now, like I said. So I'm just going to get the air pressure hooked up to the dyno and probably going to turn the heat on for a little bit because it's getting cold. I have the doors open and whatnot. So yeah, I did get the wheel chocks yesterday, so I'm going to get the car on, get those plates on, and yeah, we'll pick up in a little bit. Yeah, okay, so I did tell you guys that I was going to pick up when I got the car on the dyno. I think that's where I left off. Well, about 10 hours has passed. We've been fucking with the dyno all day, and I didn't really film anything, but I do have the CRX all strapped down onto the dyno here. I just have some straps running onto the front of the dyno here and some wheel chocks for the time being because, well, the CRX doesn't really make a whole lot of power. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of test the dyno out and test everything out. So I may do like a totally different version of this video tomorrow. We'll see. But anyways, so we got the... I'm going to do this tomorrow. So anyways, you guys know that I was messing with the wiring on this thing and I got it all wired up per the instruction manual. So I did run all the wires exactly how the manual tells me to run them. And I have the you know, cover off over here for the water break and all that kind of stuff. And there's also some more wiring on this side of the dyno. And yeah. So yesterday I did pull the car on the dyno right away and played around with it for probably like 5 hours or something like that, and I was just kind of messing around and seeing what I need to do to get it to work and all that. And well, I was having a really hard time getting the CRX to load on the dyno. Like the water brake was not actually working whenever I would hit load on the controller. So this thing has like a controller built in right here, and the lift function and everything like that works. So when I was using the lift control, I would just hit up on the lift and then the lift would come up so I could pull the car on. I went over this in the last video, but and then you hit down when the car is on the dyno and then it can, you know, center itself on the rollers. And then I just strapped it to the D hooks that are on the dyno, just, you know, through the front end of the car there. And then I got some wheel chocks that I positioned in front of the back tires so the car can't come forward. And then I got the this Drummond pump from Harbor Freight that does like 1,600 gallons per hour. And then I filled this thing up because we got the water working at the shop. So, and now that we ran the water for a while, it builds good pressure, holds good pressure, and everything works. So I can just flip this thing on and we got good water. The frickin' tank, the pressure tank is full. So we have everything good to go with the water system in the shop. Besides this fitting down here, we actually just removed this pipe from the, you know, the rest where this comes together here because the pipe was actually bursted. So we have to replace this little section of pipe right here in order to get the water in the bathroom operating. So that might be a project for tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure, but anyways, back to the dyno here. So we got, I was testing everything out with the flywheel. This thing all works, you know, perfectly how it should. The belts are just a little stretched out. Like this one right here is like, you know, are you even doing anything, bro? So anyways, I did get the water brake and everything working. We had an issue with the dyno where it wasn't loading and it wasn't unloading. So we had an issue where I would hit load and we did not have anything coming through. We had water flowing through the feed and return hoses coming out of this bucket, this, you know, drum of water right here. We had water flowing, but we didn't have any actuation on the water brake. So I did some troubleshooting. The manual actually comes with a lot of like pretty decent instructions for the 70s. I don't know if it's in this one. Yeah. So yeah, like this page right here just says like dynometer fails to load, and that's exactly what was happening. I kind of just went through the you know, the probable cause and the remedies listed here. It just says like insufficient water supply and or pressure, check this page, whatever, and then it says like, okay, duh, idiot, open the main supply valve. So I went over here, made sure this valve was on, which it's all the way cranked open right now. So that wasn't it. We tried it again. Dyno still didn't load. So After we opened the valve up, made sure everything was good there, we said, okay, we'll try the next thing. It says clean water supply strainer. So the water supply strainer is actually right in this chunk right here. So if we take this cap off of this junction right here, it's like a T fitting, or a Y fitting I should say. In this chunk of it right here, there is actually like a little screen or a little filter. So this filter, I don't know if you guys can tell, but that thing is really gummed up and full of junk. So this dyno has been sitting for about 10 years or so. It didn't have water in it when I got it, but you know, there was some shit kind of built up in there. So for the time being, just to test the dyno to make sure everything was gonna work, I took the screen completely out, and voila, we got a freaking load that works. And now the dyno is actually loading and working. So yeah, but anyways, this book is really nice to have because it's, you know, kind of gives me little things to troubleshoot and whatnot. And honestly, for this dyno being $750, I'm so thankful that it came with a bunch of books, you know, in case if we had any issues, because something like this, you can't just Google it. So another thing with the dyno, we had some issues with the gauges not working. So we went through the wiring again, and you know, obviously I wanted to try to use this stuff if I could, but honestly none of it is working at this time. The speedometer was working very slightly. Like, I had Michael driving the car on the dyno yesterday doing about 40 to 50 miles an hour, and the speedometer was only reading 10. So behind this little badge right here, it's like a little flip thing. You can open it up, and there's little adjustment screws that actually can set the needle lower or higher, but it doesn't change like how it reads. So I think possibly that these gauges are just junk and they just don't work. They don't work. I think the needles are like froze up or something, because none of it works. Like the horsepower didn't work, the miles an hour didn't work, none of it works. So that sucks. But I didn't really plan on using any of this stuff anyways, because I do plan on upgrading it to a more modern load cell and a more modern you know, software and brain box to use, because this thing only read up to 200 horsepower, and I want to have something that reads a lot higher than that, like something quadruple that. So anyways, the load cell is going to have to go on the dyno, which is this thing right here. I'm going to have to update it to a more modern one, and possibly the speedometer sensor. So this is the speedo for the dyno, and when the tires spin, it kind of clicks this little guy right here, and it's kind of like a crank sensor. It sees, you know, rotation and, you know, calibrates it into, you know, reading miles an hour or whatever. So I don't know if that sensor's bad also with that, but I know like Matt Happel was messing with his dyno, and he just used like a crank sensor off of an LS motor, so I might be able to rig something up with that. Maybe weld a little trigger wheel or something on, or like a little like a tab on the roller, so it can, you know what 1 revolution is, and then do the math on the software to kind of convert everything to have speedometer work. But I am going to do some more testing with this thing here and make sure that the load and everything is going to be working how I want, because yesterday when I was messing with it, I would turn the load to like, hey, 1. So this thing has a bunch of different load settings. It has road load and constant speed. So I think the constant speed one means where you can set it to 1 or 2 or 3, and it's just going to hold the car at, you know, 20 or 30 miles an hour or something like that. And then you can, you know, do every throttle position at 20 miles an hour, every throttle position at 30 miles an hour kind of thing. And I think that's what that does. And then the road load is just kind of like added resistance when you're going to do a pull or whatever. So the load and unload buttons are a little bit tricky still. I'm trying to get the dyno to load properly and unload properly, just because I'm really unfamiliar with this stuff. Like, I've been on a chassis dyno, like I can count them on one hand the times I've done this, and to have my own and try to like know the workings of one and everything like that is definitely a challenge for me, because, well, I don't have the experience. But there's one way you get experience, and that's by doing it. Alright guys, so I got the CRX running, and I'm just going to warm it up a little bit and kind of show you guys the workings of the dyno and show you what I know, I guess. So first things first, we're going to have to turn the water pump on. We have this hose kind of running into this barrel of water, and it's going through the pump and into the dyno and then returning back through here. So the water pump just gets plugged in, and then you can hear the water pump load up. So we got good pressure. This is nice and firm. Got good pressure going in and then coming out. So next we need to hook up the air. So we're gonna turn the pressure down on the compressor to like 75. So we're a little above 75 right now. We'll just plug this guy in, which is my, this thing is for the air pressure for the lift and for the water brake. So if we need air pressure in order to evacuate the water. So some of these solenoids and water lines will actually won't work unless there's air pressure behind it. So that is something I learned yesterday, where the dyno would load but it wouldn't unload because there was no air pressure to help unload the water out of the brake. So now that we got air and water, we got to check the gauge here. We're reading about 70 psi air. Now we can plug the whole dyno in, which is just this one plug right here. It just plugs into the wall. And then the dyno will light up. So we got power going to the box, and yeah, we should be all good to go. So I'm gonna just kind of drive the car a little bit without any load, show you guys kind of how the car acts, and then we'll try the flywheel. We'll engage the flywheel and show you how the car acts, and then we'll do the load testing as well. So put the thing in first gear, and driving on the dyno is definitely a little bit different than driving on the street. It's a little bit harder to get the dyno rolling, especially when the flywheel is engaged or when you have an actual load hooked up. But so we're in third gear right now, just kind of cruising, no load on the dyno, and it kind of spools up like it's a big V8 with a bunch of torque. Like third gear at 2 grand, it should not jump up RPM this fast. Especially with only 120 horsepower or whatever this thing has. So you guys can kind of tell now that that's how that is. So now we'll engage the flywheel and show you kind of how the car acts with this thing hooked up. So this is supposed to simulate like a road load. At least that's what, you know, in 1970s they thought simulated a road load. So let's try it out. So now the flywheel is spinning when I'm driving on the dyno. And that's me like going second gear floored, third gear floored. So obviously if we do the same test right here, third gear at like 2 grand, if I floor it, obviously the RPM climbs a lot slower because the car is actually loaded down. So now we'll unhook the flywheel. I want to get this cover fixed too, because the cover was actually broken when I got the dyno. So now we can unload this thing, and we'll try out the water. So the water brake is a little bit different, obviously, and I still don't know how it all works, but I can kind of simulate how I think it should feel. So if we just drive, no load, get it up to like 30 miles an hour, and then we can hit, like we're under manual right now. It says man and man, and it's right, you know, pointed like this. So I don't know exactly what that means, but if we go to like constant speed 1 or constant speed 2, constant speed 1 or 2, it kind of keeps the load the same, so it's really lugging on the car. You guys can see right there where I was floored, and I couldn't actually get the car to, like, you know, build RPM or anything like that. So that's going from manual down to like 2 on the constant speed, and like I said, I couldn't really keep the thing loaded, or I couldn't, you know, get it to build RPM. Like it's too loaded, which is good because you want to keep it, you know, if you have a constant load like that, you can tune various throttle positions at, like, say 40 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour or wherever you choose. So now we can hit unload. I believe if I hit the unload button, we should be able to spool it back up how we were. See, it's still loaded, but if I hold the unload, yeah, see, like, if I hold unload, it'll allow me to do like a dyno pull where it feels like it's normal, but I'm just gonna, I don't know, I'm just playing around with this thing, and it seems like once it gets loaded, it doesn't want to come unloaded. Like, that's all unloaded right there, but when I hit a certain speed, it loads up. Maybe not right there, but... See, I was holding the unload button that time, and it allowed the car to build RPM, which seems like that was about proper. Like, it had load still, but it wasn't overloaded, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, guys. I'm just playing around, figuring it out. So third gear, if I floor it, I just got done holding unload. Okay, so we have no load now. It's back to just roller, you know, there's no load on the rollers right now. So the dyno's completely unloaded. So if we hit road load, let's try road load instead of the constant speed ones, because we did constant speed last time, and then the dyno was all loaded up, and I had to hold unload to be able to get it to build RPM. Hopefully this shit makes sense, guys. So we'll get it up to like 30 again. And we'll go to road load 1. Up to like 4 grand and stops. We'll hit unload. Yeah, CRX, we don't have a dyno fan either, so the car tends to get hot. But it's just a CRX, I don't really care. Thing's kind of useless to me anyways without a title. I don't know. Alright guys, so as you guys can see, I'm having some issues with trying to get the car to load properly and unload properly. Like I said, I don't really know how to operate this old thing, and maybe it just needs to be modernized with some stuff I can understand. But anyways, I'm trying to figure out how to do like a proper power run, and this thing, in the book it says testing vehicle. Right here, wide open throttle, full load test, accelerate vehicle to 3000 RPM engine speed, then press the load button. Press load button while gradually depressing the throttle to keep the engine speed over 2500 RPM. When the throttle is wide open and the engine speed is 2500 RPM, release the load button. So it says press load button and probably hold load button, I would assume, because it says release load button when engine speed is 2500 and your wide open throttle. Read power meter as you begin this test. If you are unable to reach 2500 RPM, the dyno meter is overloaded. Press unload button until desired engine speed is reached. Alright guys, so with more playing on the dyno, I have realized that the load and unload buttons are kind of for setting the load where you want it. So if I hit load, it will load the car to a point where the car will literally not accelerate and it'll bog the car right down. And then I can hit unload and hold it till I have a desired load that I want and let go of it, and it'll be a consistent load after that. It's just kind of confusing and really hard to tell with this thing, like where a good load should be or where a bad load is, or too much load or not enough load or whatever. So it's really hard for me to justify like where a good load is, you know what I mean? It's hard to tell. So I think once I get this new software and stuff like that, it's going to have like automatic brake control, automatic load control, and we can just set like one specific number for a load, and that'll be it, kind of thing. So it'll be easier, more simple, and more consistent. Where this thing, with the old school, technology, it's just kind of not ideal. So I'm gonna do one more test, and then that'll wrap it up. Michael's almost ready to fire up his car, and yeah. So anyways, I'm gonna try this thing out one more time and kind of show you guys quick, and then after that, we'll check up on Michael. We do have all the doors open and stuff because I still need to get a fan in front of the car here. I still need to get one of those like fans that blow air at the front of the car because the CRX does get hot. It has no cooling fans or anything on it, so I gotta like do a run and then shut it off, kind of thing, because yeah, no fans equals no airflow equals hot car. Every time I hit the load button, it adds a little bit more load. So like say, if I fully unload the dyno completely, which should be unloaded right now. Yeah, see, it's just not like fast enough to react to my inputs. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, see, it hangs up. It like loads and stays loaded. I'll try to unload it right now. I'm holding unload right now. Power run, like it actually ran out the RPM properly that time, but I was holding the unload button while I was doing it, so I don't know, maybe the buttons are messed up. I don't know. And it's hard to tell because I have like no data to go off of, like, hey, this is working, this isn't working. You know what I mean? Now it doesn't have any load. I don't know, it's getting better, but it's still not perfect. Like I said, I gotta hold, like I'll get it loaded where I want it, and it'll bog the car down so hard, and then it'll be stuck there and I can't accelerate at all. So I'll hold unload to get the car to spool up and build RPM. And if I let go of unload, it'll like stop it at wherever I stop it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to get some proper power runs here, but it's kind of hard to get a consistent power run when, you know, I'm dealing with this old stuff. But I am not complaining because this dyno is 750 bucks. Like, it still works, but it's just gonna have to do some finessing and updating of, you know, the electronics and stuff like that so I can get consistent load when I need it. But other than that, this fucker's mint. Alright guys, so the CRX is now cooling off. I wish I had a cooling fan in front of this thing so I could actually like do testing and not have to stop every 5 minutes, because then I'd probably learn a little bit quicker about the dyno. But at least it works. Like, it is working. It just has some bugs with, you know, the load. So loading and unloading it is becoming a challenge to me. And I think a lot of it is just to do with a lot of the old lines and electronics and solenoids and stuff like that, where it doesn't unload fast enough and it doesn't load fast enough. I actually read a thing online where these Clayton dynos actually are notorious for just taking longer than it needs to unload and load the dyno. So yeah, I just wish there was like settings where it would, you know, I'm lost with this stuff, guys. Like, I have a lot of learning to do. And you can probably tell by this video where I'm just like super lost and confused with this stuff. But I knew I just had to dive into this. I just got to dive in and give it my all and figure it out, because that's what makes you stronger and that's what makes you smarter. And by the end of this, hopefully I'll know everything in and out of this dyno, every ounce of electricity that's flowing through it and everything. So hopefully all that works out, and tomorrow we're gonna fix the water pipe that's busted and have some running water for the shitter, and get a cooling fan. That's another thing I want to do tomorrow, as well as probably play with Michael's car a little bit. So Michael's almost ready to fire this thing up, but I think we're going to wait till tomorrow. You guys will have to wait, and then you can see Michael's badass little single cam.
Blow up on first
Yeah, probably blow up on the first startup.
And we did everything right this time.
Yeah. Did everything right. He measured the clearances. He went through everything properly, but he reused his head gasket.
It only had 500 miles on it.
Yeah,
One tuning.
You're fine. But anyways, that's going to be it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you guys are new. And leave a comment down below if you guys are any experience with dyno stuff. If you want to get a hold of me, I would really appreciate it. If you guys have banners or stickers, get a hold of me. I'm lost at the dyno stuff, but hopefully soon we'll figure it all out and get her ripping and do some more full pull.